Lisa was playing guitar, Tom was yelling at his game, Mrs. Johnson was singing in the kitchen, and Buster was barking at the mailman. It wasn't until breakfast that they realized something was wrong. Mr. Johnson stood at the head of the table, waving his arms wildly. When the family finally noticed him, he pointed to his throat and mouthed, "I can't speak." "What did you say, dear?" Mrs. Johnson asked, turning down the radio. Mr. Johnson scribbled on a notepad, "I lost my voice." The family fell silent for the first time in years. Without Mr. Johnson's booming voice to organize them, they weren't sure what to do. "I have a science test today," Tom said in a normal voice that sounded strangely quiet in the sudden stillness. "Dad usually quizzes me on the way to school." Mr. Johnson wrote on his notepad, "Get ready. I'll drive you." The morning routine continued, but everything felt different. In the car, instead of Mr. Johnson shouting over the radio to quiz Tom, they drove in silence. Tom realized he actually remembered more facts without the distraction. At work, Mr. Johnson's employees were confused when he started communicating through notes and hand signals. Surprisingly, they paid closer attention to his written instructions than they ever had to his shouted ones. One worker even commented, "You know, these notes are really clear. Maybe we should all write things down more often." Back at home, Mrs. Johnson found the quiet unsettling. She kept waiting for her husband's voice to cut through the house, telling everyone to settle down or announcing dinner. When she started to sing while preparing lunch, she noticed Grandma Johnson flinch at the sudden noise. She had never realized how her singing sounded to others when there was no other noise to blend with. Lisa came home from school and went straight to her room to practice guitar as usual. But after a few minutes, she emerged looking troubled. "Everything sounds different today," she told her mother. "Without all the other noise, I can hear how many mistakes I'm making." Tom had a similar experience with his video games. With the house so quiet, his shouting seemed unnecessarily loud, even to himself. He found he actually played better when he concentrated quietly. By dinner time, the family was acting strangely. They sat around the table, eating almost silently. The only sounds were the clinking of cutlery and Buster's tail thumping against the floor. Finally, Grandma Johnson put down her fork. "You know," she said in her soft, clear voice, "this is the first time in 10 years I've been able to hear myself think in this house." The family looked at each other, suddenly aware of how their noise must have affected her all these years. "I'm sorry, Grandma," Lisa said. "I didn't realize my guitar was so loud." "And I didn't know my games bothered you," Tom added. Mrs. Johnson reached for her husband's hand. "We didn't mean to be so noisy. It just became normal for us." Mr. Johnson wrote on his notepad, "I'm sorry too. I didn't know my voice was so loud." For the next 2 days, Mr. Johnson's voice didn't return, and the family adjusted to their new quiet life. They discovered things about each other they had never known. Lisa learned that Tom was writing a story for school. Tom discovered that his sister was actually really funny when you could hear her jokes. Mrs. Johnson and Grandma Johnson had long conversations they'd been putting off for years. Even Buster seemed calmer, barking less now that the house was quieter. On the third morning, Mr. Johnson woke up and said good morning in his regular thunderous voice. The sound echoed through the house. Immediately, everyone covered their ears. The noise that had once been normal now sounded unbearably loud. "Oops," Mr. Johnson said in a much quieter voice. "I guess I got my voice back." The family gathered in the kitchen, looking at each other uncertainly. "You know, Mrs. Johnson said, I think we've learned something this week." Lisa nodded. We don't need to be so loud all the time. But we don't need to be completely quiet either, Tom added. Maybe we can find a middle ground. They decided to make some changes. Lisa would practice guitar with headphones sometimes. Tom would play his games in his room with the door closed. Mrs. Johnson would save her singing for when she was alone in the kitchen. And Mr. Johnson would try to use his indoor voice inside the house. They also created quiet hours in the evening when everyone would read, talk quietly, or play board games. During these times, they discovered they actually enjoyed each other's company more. The neighbors soon noticed the change. Mrs. Gable from next door commented, "It's so peaceful on Maple Street these days. We can actually hear the birds singing." The Johnson family still made noise sometimes, during family game nights or when they had parties, but now it was by choice, not by habit. They had learned that while noise could be fun, quiet could be peaceful, and balance was the most important thing of all. Even Buster seemed to approve of the new arrangement. He still barked at squirrels, but now he did it with a wagging tail, as if to say that some noise was perfectly fine, as long as it wasn't constant.